Another year, another EA Sports football game, but is FC26 really the fresh start that we've all been waiting for? Well, last year's FC25 really did promise some big things, but did fall apart pretty immediately. Ultimate Team patches really wrecked the balance, headers were utterly pointless, and defending absolutely appalling, and by the end of it, many including myself just walked away from this edition. Well, this time around though, it looks as though EA has listened to player feedback, which I have to say I was even pretty skeptical about. They've actually introduced though 2 new distinct playstyles, revamped the career mode, and even rebuilt clubs from the ground up. These are some pretty big promises, but does FC26 actually deliver, or is it just all hype over and over again? Well, my name is Fletcher, and this is Xbox Nation, and here is my review of EA Sports FC26 on our Xbox consoles. So, the headline change this year is the split between authentic and competitive gameplay, and it really does alter how the game overall feels. Authentic mode now slows everything down and aims for more realism, so midfielders will actually track back properly, headers are once again a viable weapon, and tackles finally stick instead of bouncing straight back to attackers. Playing this way did feel way more tactical. I had to actually think about build-up play and use width of my team, and then scoring from a cross or a set piece actually felt rewarding again. The flip side is that the pace can sometimes feel a little bit sluggish compared to other EA Sports FC games, and the heavier animations won't suit players who prefer quick end-to-end football. Competitive mode, by its contrast though, is a lot faster and even sharper, and it's where I really did have the most fun within EA FC26. Dribbling is a lot smoother, passing has also had more snap thanks to the one-frame mechanic, and shooting also feels incredibly balanced, with low drivens toned down and finesse shots more rewarding than ever before. Goalkeepers are a clear upgrade too, but they're not perfect, but they're far more consistent than last year's entry. The only major disappointment is defending this year, as EA has insisted that manual defending is the future, but too often the AI does still do a little bit too much of the work, which does hold the overall system back quite a bit. Overall though, the gameplay does feel like a genuine step forward. Authentic is incredibly thoughtful and rewarding, where competitive is quick and exciting, and for the first time in many years, I wanted to keep playing match after match. One of the most refreshing things about FC26 is how authentic mode actually changes the feel of every single match. Games are no longer chaotic end-to-end shootouts. Instead, you'll often be grinding out 1-0 or even sort of draw score lines where every single clearance and every interception does feel meaningful. Corners and crosses once again do carry some weight about them, where physical battles between wingers and fullbacks do feel pretty authentic, and even scrappy goals do feel pretty dramatic this time. The atmosphere during gameplay is actually utterly fantastic, but the problem is everything around it. Commentary is yet again recycled to the point where I started tuning out to it, crowd reactions are pretty generic, and broadcast style presentations have barely evolved. On the pitch, the tension and flow are better than they've ever been in years, but off the pitch, the atmosphere still feels like it's stuck a few years in time. Of course though, Ultimate Team is still EA's money spinner, and FC26 really hasn't been reinvented too much within that wheelhouse. I do have to say though that the team over at EA have actually slowed things down in a way that it makes the early weeks of Ultimate Team way more enjoyable. The power curve has been really flattened, meaning you don't run into fully stacked squads on day one. That makes early rival games feel a lot fairer, and squad building actually feels like an actual journey instead of an immediate arms race. The progression system in Rivals as well has also been given a bit more teeth as well, with hot streaks and relegation threats that make every game feel like it matters. Gone are the days where I'd be stuck in Division 3 and never being able to get relegated, and instead I'll be stuck with overpowered teams and losing on a constant basis. Menus as well are a lot cleaner, objectives here are so much better organised, and the new pack animations are a really nice touch. The downside though is still pretty obvious, it's still Ultimate Team. If you don't spend money, you'll eventually fall behind, no matter how well you play. Packs do remain the dominant way to progress, and the grind is ever present as ever, with the packs actually costing quite a bit this year. The slower curve though is an improvement, but the fundamental structure really hasn't changed that much. Career mode on the other hand finally feels alive again, even if the changes aren't as sweeping as EA wants you to think. The biggest addition this year though is Manager Life, which throws in scenarios like points deductions, transfer bans, or even squad morale problems. These actually force you to adapt and make long saves more interesting. Unexpected events do add a bit more personality as well, with players becoming even homesick or injuries throwing plans into chaos. I also like the ability to simulate up to 5 leagues in full. Lone players also feel finally connected to this world as well, developing a way that you can actually track. Alongside that though, and obviously with lone players, scouting is really improved as well, with scouts now offering potential ranges rather than leaving you to rely on outside sources. Tactically within games as well, roles and formations matter more than before, enough that a small tweak can actually noticeably change how your team overall plays. But the career mode obviously still has its limits. Press conferences are still pretty repetitive, the squad hub looks like exactly the same thing that we've seen for years at this point, and authentic gameplay can feel slow over long sessions. Still, compared to last year's entry, it's actually the most fun I've had in career mode in quite a long time. One aspect that I really did enjoy is that Clubs has undergone a major rebuild. The old skill tree has been entirely scrapped and replaced with archetypes which are modelled after football legends. Instead of pouring points into random statistics like previous entries, you now earn archetype points and you use them to slowly mould your pro into the type of player that you want to see. The system for sure is a lot slower, but it's way more structured, and I found it so much more rewarding to see my pro develop deliberately instead of through scattershot upgrades. Customization does remain a very big strong suit of Clubs though, with plenty of options for kits, badges, and your player's appearance. On pitch though, stamina has also been tweaked so you never completely run out of speed, which keeps match pretty competitive right until the final whistle. Even small touches like expanding in-game chat messages from 4 to 16 adds a lot more flavour to the overall experience. The trade-off though is that progression is a lot slower this year, and kind of painfully slow at points. After a dozen games, I barely felt like I'd actually advanced, and I can see a lot of casual players giving up long before their pro actually reaches their peak. For hardcore players like myself though, the grind really does make a lot of sense, and I really can't wait to spend hours upon hours building out my pro player. For me, licensing is where FC26 really stumbles yet again, and I guess that's sort of the inevitable thing these days as they dropped the FIFA moniker quite a few years back now. Argentina's return is pretty nice to see, but Brazil's top league and Liga MX are missing sources yet again, and this is just such a big missed opportunity. For a company with EA's resources, it's pretty inexcusable, and it just really dampens the overall experience. I have to say though, the presentation this year is a real mixed bag. Menus are sharper, though can get laggy from time to time, squad building challenges do have a better layout this time, and some players' faces have been completely rescanned. When you do combine that though with the smoother gameplay elements, matches definitely look and feel more authentic in its motion. But for me, there are some downsides. The commentary is being recycled yet again, crowds do feel ultra generic, and small annoyances like white text on white interview screens are still around. EA have certainly polished many areas, but it still has a ton of blemishes, especially around its navigation. I did come across a few crashes here and there within the menu screens, and I swear it feels like the same issues that were prevalent from EA FC 25. In terms of performance on Xbox though, across both the series consoles, it's a really good affair like we see every single year. You do again get an option between a performance and fidelity mode, with one aiming for a better visual quality and the other solely for a more stable frame rate. They both hit 60 FPS, so to me you might as well keep it on fidelity mode, as there are little to no changes outside of specific cutscenes. So is FC26 worth buying this year? Well, I think it is, but with some caveats. Gameplay is the best that I've seen in recent years. Authentic mode really gives players who want realism a slower and more thoughtful game, whereas the competitive mode offers sharp, exciting matches that feel great to play. Career mode has finally been given some proper attention, even though it's not overwhelming. Clubs definitely feels a lot deeper, which I'm really excited by, and Ultimate Team's slow progression does make the grind less overwhelming. But of course, the flaws are pretty impossible to ignore. Defending is still a bit too AI dependent, authentic can feel sluggish, presentation is pretty stale, and licensing is still embarrassing for a game of this scale. And of course, Ultimate Team is still built on microtransactions, even if it does feel fairer at the start of this year. Compared to FC25 though, this is a huge step forward. For career mode and clubs players, is definitely worth buying. For Ultimate Team fans though, is a healthier grind, but the same treadmill underneath, so you kind of know what you're getting into. It's not a revolution, but I never kind of expected that within going into EA FC26, as EA kind of never actually stated that. Instead, it's a genuine step in the right direction, and that's why I've actually been pretty happy with my experience so far with FC26 in 2025.